good to go. All right. I love it. Let me mute that one too. I always forget to mute my background every time, every single time, 100% of the time. Okay. Awesome. All right. So we are fully live on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for coming on today, Eilish. I really appreciate it. I had a connection call with Eilish Olson and was just immediately drawn to her and her energy and her story and everything that she brings to the table. And she told me that she has a lot of good luck and past histories with Amy's. So it was just meant to be. To begin with. So, Eilish is the owner of Eilish Olson Agency, and she does ethical copywriting and works with holistic health coaches and other people as well, not just health coaches, but to make sure that their messaging is coming across the way they want to in an ethical way, which that immediately just drew me to you anyway. So, thank you so much for being on here today. I really appreciate you hopping on with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I do just have really good luck with Amy's. I don't know what it is, but I've known a bunch of Amy's and I've always vibed really well with them. So, I'm just happy to get on this live with you after we connected on that call.
I love it. I love it so much. And yeah, not all of us are perfect, but a lot of us are really fabulous. I'll say
Yes,
that. So
very close.
and right. And if Eilish's story today and services today resonate with you, I would encourage you to connect with her on LinkedIn, shoot her DM. That's what I did. I totally slid cold into her DMs, but did so in a really authentic way because that's what I'm trying to create here on LinkedIn. And obviously, there are a lot of amazing people out here who are doing some incredible things. So you will not regret connecting with her. So she gave me permission to give you guys permission to slide into her DMs in an authentic and not creepy way. So,
Yes,
so
please.
you should go do that. Yeah. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about business ownership and about all of the things that come into play with us as females in entrepreneurship, business owners who want to make that transition, and also just how our stories kind of play. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I should say I just got over the Godzilla flu, so you guys are gonna have to be patient with like my froggy voice and my occasional coughs today. But um, it's interesting in doing some of these connection calls with people on LinkedIn. So many women, I will say, have told me stories that seem so disjointed, and yet, where they are today has just woven into this really beautiful picture where pieces of things that seemed like they were so not connected and so separated actually have created a really beautiful story. And yours was something very similar to that. Do you mind just kind of sharing your story and your journey from how you got to where you were employee to becoming an entrepreneur and starting your business?
Absolutely. So I will first start way back in like second grade. I swear I'm not going to go on a long tangent, but
Feel free.
I'll just say I've always loved writing. It's always been a huge passion of mine. It's always been something that I've been more skilled at than some of,
Mhm. Yeah,
other
yeah.
courses and all of that in school. And at the same time, I've also always been drawn to careers in the medical field. There was a time where I thought I was going to maybe go into psychology. There was another time where I thought I was maybe going to become a nurse. I
Mm.
ultimately decided that, none of those paths were for me. So I ended up majoring in business and accounting in college.
Okay,
It
okay.
was business finance and then minoring in accounting.
Yeah.
And I was able to get an amazing internship right my senior year actually, and then I was there for another 3 years after that,
Oh, wow.
full-time job.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
most amazing first job I could have had, amazing company. I still talk to my coworkers. It was just like it was
Oh,
pretty much a dream come true as far as the 9 to 5 goes. I hear
yeah.
a lot of horror stories, unfortunately, from
There are a
other.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, but I was very fortunate to not have that experience.
Yeah.
I really really love this company. I
Hmm.
just did not have a passion for accounting. I was
Mm.
skilled at it. It was not, it just it never really lit me up. And
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
what writing does. So
Right,
I
right.
kind of never let go of my love of writing, but also my desire to help people, which is why, drawn to those medical fields. So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
discovered copywriting and I signed up for a course in community and I pretty much never went back.
That's awesome. That's so much. So I just recently did a speaking engagement with a CPA firm, and I spoke at a CPA conference that was here locally. And CPAs are under so much stress. I know we talked about that when we talked the other day. Oh my gosh. I mean, the burden that CPAs feel in their jobs, I've never done it, so I haven't felt it personally, and I have to hear it from other people. But it's story after story after story. And it's interesting because I know someone else, a personal friend of mine, who was an accountant, and her hair started falling out
Oh,
when she was so stressed out in the role. And for her, it became a, okay, I'm done with this. I'm leaving this industry. I've done all the strategies, I've done all the things, I've done all the things that I could apply, but sometimes it's just an environment that's not a good environment. And sometimes that is the answer. It was for me, and it is for some other people as well. I see people chiming in, Constantine, and saying, yeah, I couldn't survive the program. Yeah, like sometimes it just is really, really hard. And we have to make that hard call and say, I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to go into something different. So, what about your mindset shifted that allowed you to make that jump and then allowed you to be successful as a business owner? Or if you went to a different career, even, but like what mindset were you leaning into that helped facilitate that choice for you?
yeah. So, first of all, I should mention that I didn't just jump into my business right away,
Yeah,
without
yeah.
ever having done anything or having any clients.
Yeah, yeah.
I know some people do that and some people succeed with doing
Mhm.
that, but it was
Mhm.
just not my path.
Yeah.
So I actually stayed in my full-time job, probably for about a year, and I was running my business on the side.
Oh,
And then once
great.
I got a few clients, I realized, okay, I can do this. And that's when I, slowly made the transition. Like I told work that I told my 9 to 5 that I was
Hmm.
doing this. And that's, I also wanted to move closer to my family. So
Right.
it was kind of like a very slow transition, which allowed me time to, find more clients in addition to the ones I already had
Right.
and just make that
Right.
like smooth transition. So I wasn't just throwing myself into the deep end. But in
Smart.
terms of
Smart.
mindset, it's interesting because it's going from an employee mindset to a business mindset. And I actually got
Yeah.
that employee mindset thing from my mentor of the copywriting
Mhm.
community that I'm in. So that's not mine. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a coined term, but it's not mine. But essentially, you have to learn a lot of things, how to
Hmm.
be more assertive, how to be more decisive, slow
Hmm.
myself
Yeah.
down. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have rules all of a sudden. You don't have a boss. You are your own boss. And it's this really weird transition for a lot of people, especially like I like direction. I like rules, which is one of the things that drew me to accounting. Lots
Right.
of rules.
Right.
I'm not a math person, but I like the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's this mindset of like stepping into your role
Mm.
as your own boss. So,
Yeah.
you have to build your confidence. And I think that really just takes like practice,
Yeah.
repetition, journaling,
Yeah.
like just figuring out that mindset work is really important in this space. Like a lot of people scoff at that. They might think it sounds, woo woo,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not.
Yeah.
It's, and this is something my consultant that I recently hired actually told me. He's like, your lack of confidence is sometimes coming through in your content. And,
Mm.
it doesn't matter, you can have so much experience. Everyone can have so much
Mm.
experience, but they can still feel that lack of confidence. Like no matter how much
Yeah.
experience I keep getting, there's still like a little piece of me that is not completely confident and that sometimes shines through. So you have
Right.
to work on that. Otherwise it will bleed through to everything you do.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was one of those people, right? Like my absolutely same. Please ask any questions that you have. I'm keeping an eye on the chat box. So my background's in science, right? So I know coaching it may feel a little more woo-woo from people on the outside, but like I have a science brain, right? So I'm like, oh, mindset work. Like already I did take the leap and went in and had not replaced my income by the time I went in full time. My story being a little different as a cancer survivor, right? But like, sorry, that was my motivation, right? So I did skip over a lot of that mindset stuff and it kicked me in the ass. And it's something that you can't skip. You can do it at the beginning or you can do it when it kicks you in the ass. But either way, you're gonna be doing the mindset work. And I think you also hit the nail on the head. And I'm just gonna pause real quick before I say this next thing that Darian said. It's been awesome watching Eilish's journey. So
Shout
yeah.
out to my consultant.
I love that. I haven't been able to witness, but I've heard, and it's been awesome just even being on the receiving end of hearing it. So you hit the nail on the head with having those rules. So going from employee where I'm going to passively sit back and wait to be told what to do to I wake up and like no one's stopping me from staying in the bed and watching Netflix and eating ice cream,
Yes.
like it is a different shift, right? And I experienced that when I went from a role of um I was a leader at a school that I was in, and then I went to an assistant principal, and all of a sudden, I expected I would have someone telling me what to do, but it was just going to be like bigger girl things. And it was no one told me what to do with my time, and so it was like it took a hot second. So, what mindset things did you employ or utilize for productivity and time management and staying on task when no one else was doing that for you? What did that look like for you?
Well, the first thing was like shifting my definition of productivity,
Mm,
right? Because when we're coming from the typical 9 to 5, we're thinking, okay, productivity is 8 hours a day. My brain is on 8 hours a day. I don't know why we think like all of a sudden we become a business owner and we're like, how did I work a straight 8 hours a day? We didn't. You don't work a straight 8 hours a day.
you
Like
don't.
you are, you're spacing out, you're talking to coworkers, you're going to the bathroom, you're doing other things. And it's not like intentional to skip work. It's because our brains aren't
Right.
meant to just sit in front of a screen for eight
Exactly.
hours
Exactly.
and be okay and be totally productive.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's the first thing is like, and that was hard for me because I have always been like so rigid. I've never been a procrastinator. Like I've
Yeah.
always been so on top of my work. So
Yeah.
making that shift was one that was especially difficult for me because
Yeah.
I was like, why can't I sit and work for 6 hours straight or 8 hours straight?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so the first step was just realizing that and
Yeah.
accepting it,
Yeah.
acknowledging it, and then like,
Hmm.
okay, how do I go forward from here? So
Right.
you have to acknowledge your limits as a human
Yeah.
being,
Yeah.
as we all
Yeah.
are.
100%.
Because otherwise you're going to go crazy like I kind of was in the beginning. But after that, I mean, it's just kind of allowing yourself to figure out what works for you,
Hmm.
like figuring out what your ideal schedule is.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people who will tell you, oh, your morning needs to look exactly like this, and stuff like that. But you really just have to, that's just it. You just have to see what works for you. And
Yeah.
then once you find what works for you, then you can be a little bit more strict with yourself. Um,
Right.
but there are just so many things that you just have to try. You just have to
Yeah.
figure out by
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. 100%. Which means you're also going to be failing, right? Like if you're trying by doing until you figure it out, that implies there's 100 things potentially that you tried that didn't work. And sticking with it until you find out what does, instead of saying 100 things didn't work. Oh, well, I'm done. I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, no, I just haven't found it yet. It's out there in the field of flowers. And until I pick the right one, I'm not going to be able to figure that out. Right. But also, I love how you said figuring out what productivity looks like for you, because you're saying this bit indirectly. So I'm going to rephrase what you said. Please tell me if I'm totally off base here. But how it landed for me is trusting yourself.
Mhm.
Like trusting yourself that productivity for you looks like what productivity looks like for you. And that was hard for me because I call myself an achievement addict. And for me, achievement looks like this gets you guys who tune into my lives all the time, you're so tired of seeing this notepad. I am too. But if I can check this off, then that's achievement. And
Yeah.
maybe achievement was that I stepped away from the computer and as the owner of my business, gave myself 2 hours to sit outside in the hammock and give my brain the capacity to dream and be creative about what my clients want and need and what my next offer should be that serves them best. Because that 2 hours of creativity and spaciousness and capacity could turn into tens of thousands of dollars of income. But if it was more productive means I checked my list off and I finished my to-do list by the end of the day, that doesn't actually turn into any kind of income earning activity. And maybe sitting in the hammock does. And maybe that's what productivity means. Figuring
I
that
couldn't
out.
agree more.
It's so hard though when you're used to clocking in and clocking out and getting shit
It
done
is.
and being done with it. It's so hard.
It's so difficult. I love the achievement addict too. That describes me to a T, like
Oh,
perfectionist, achievement addict.
yes.
It's all, yes.
Yes,
Could
feel
not
free to
really be
use it. Feel free to steal it. I don't know, I don't know if I used it the first time, but it like it really I just that clicked in my brain one day and I was like, God, that is so exactly what I am, That's exactly how this plays out for me,
so
right?
accurate.
It really, really is. Thank you, Konstantin. He said this is not talked about enough. Great ideas do need space, right? Um, so I want to ask you because part of what you offer in your business is ethical copywriting. And you and I talked about this a little bit, but I'd love for you to share this. So there's so much that's done. And one of the reasons that I have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn is because people slide into my DMs all the time and they're like, I can help you make $10,000 tomorrow while you're asleep, not doing anything. You don't even have to show up. Like it's dumb stuff and I hate it. And especially because that's not what I got in business to do. Do I want to make a gajillion dollars in my business? 100%, absolutely. Is that why I started my business? Is that the sole purpose of my job? No, it's not. And there is an ethical component to how we show up in our businesses, but we also want to be income producing. We also want to sales and market and show up. So how do we balance that ethical practice while staying productive and growing our client bases in business? How do you help people do that, and how have you done that yourself?
Yeah, so in terms of like helping my clients do that, I mean, it's in my mind, it's kind of easy. It's really
Mhm.
just being honest and being transparent. It's
Mhm.
not doing things like using fake urgency, for example. When somebody says, "Oh, this offer will be gone in two
Yes,
days," and then they're all of a sudden extending it for the next month. So it's not doing things like that.
we see that all the
And
time.
I know. I know. But being ethical with copywriting and marketing is a lot easier than I think a lot of people make it out to be. A lot
Mhm.
of in the past, I've had a lot of business owners who are so afraid to sell because
Mm,
they think that it comes across as, slimy, sleazy, salesy.
right.
But the thing is, if you can truly help the people that you're marketing to, and
Mhm.
especially if you've helped people before, then
Right.
there's really no reason why you shouldn't be putting your service or product out there and putting it in front of the people who need it. And a lot of people, sometimes it comes up in copy where my client, says, "Oh, I don't like this part because it makes it sound like I'm guaranteeing something." You need to find that balance between speaking confidently, or I guess in this case,
Right.
writing, coming across when somebody's reading
Yeah.
your copy,
Yeah.
between being confident, but also being, like not guaranteeing anything.
Mhm.
And the thing is, though, is consumers are smart, so we don't need to
Mhm.
treat them like they're stupid.
Right. I agree.
That's
I
something.
agree.
So, like I mean, if I see some coach saying, for example, menstrual health coach, because that's just what
Yeah.
comes to mind with the,
Yeah.
the industry I'm in. If I'm seeing her talk about, I can help you do this, I'm not going to automatically assume that she can absolutely help me, or she or he can help me 100% for sure, because my body is different.
Right.
I'm a different person.
Right.
But, if you helped past clients, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I can help you do this because you've helped
Right.
people before. But it's
Right.
kind of on the consumer at that point to also understand that there are no guarantees with any product
Hmm.
or service because we're all different,
Yeah.
especially in this industry, in the health industry. We are all different. You can't make guarantees. You can't assume guarantees.
Hmm.
Some of the worst people are the people who, and luckily I haven't had any clients do this, but I especially like, I feel like this is more of a product thing too, and
Yeah.
less of a service. But when
Hmm.
people ask for a refund because something didn't like work for them,
Right.
but it's
Right.
like, well, that it didn't promise that it would work for you,
Right.
So
Right. Right.
obviously there are exceptions to that. I'm not saying like, you absolutely shouldn't return anything if it doesn't work for you, but
Of
I'm just
course.
saying people who, kind of act entitled and berate the,
Right.
whatever, that's a whole
Right.
different story. So
Right.
it's
Right.
fine if you return things. I'm not
Hmm.
calling you a bad person.
No, of course.
But
Of course.
there's always a way to do that
Yeah.
that come across as
Yeah.
like, you promised me that this was going to work for me, and it's like, no, I said it could help you or can, so
Hmm.
there's always like,
Hmm.
some of the responsibility is on us as a
Right.
service provider
Right.
or
Right.
product provider, and the other is on the consumer.
Exactly.
So it's important to remember that like not all of the
Yeah.
responsibility is on you. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's a balance, right? Because I tend to be on the side where like I don't want to pitch and I don't want to talk about it because I don't want you to feel like I'm pushy and I don't want you to feel like I think I am better than you or I have all the answers because I don't. But I also have a lot of clients who have had a lot of successes and a lot of repeat clients who have a new issue or a new thing they want to work with me through, right? So, um, being able to show up confidently and say, past clients have seen these types of results is
exactly.
is is ethical. It's in line with what I offer and what I know I have seen happen, right? And you have to be able to talk confidently about your services, and that's not unethical. So that balance between like, yeah, you can show up and you can tell people what you do and what you're good at, and that's fine, while also not saying, I can promise you by tomorrow you're gonna make $10,000 in your sleep. That's
Yeah,
also not real though.
exactly. No promises that you can't keep. And that actually,
Exactly.
it does remind me, I just had a call recently with somebody who did become my client, and
Hmm.
she expressed that she actually used the word picky. She described herself as picky. She was like, I'm worried that I'm going to not like it. And I was like,
Right.
I can't promise you'll like it. I told her,
Right.
I was like, I cannot guarantee that you'll like this. Like there is no
Right.
guarantee, I can offer
Right.
that. But
Right.
what I can offer is here's my work for other
Hmm.
clients. Here are
Hmm.
my testimonials from previous
Hmm.
happy clients. I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm confident in my work. I can't
Hmm.
guarantee that you are going to like, the copy that I
Hmm.
write for you.
Hmm.
I think she did. I just turned it into her.
Yeah.
I think she did. We'll see.
We'll
But
see. Yeah.
and we're working well together. So,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like you can't make guarantees, but it's also important to note that that doesn't mean that people won't work with you. Because she
Exactly.
saw what I had written for somebody else. She
Yep.
loved it, and so she took a chance on me. And like I said, I believe it's going well. So it's
Exactly.
like, don't be
Exactly.
afraid. Just always be honest. That's pretty much my
Yes.
advice.
Yes.
Always be
Yes.
honest. You really
Yep.
can't go wrong with
And
that.
that,
Like people are not
yeah.
going to turn you down if you're honest about having no experience or little experience or
Exactly, exactly. And knowing yourself well enough to know where that line of what you can and cannot promise is, right?
Absolutely.
I can promise you I'm going to show up well. I can promise you I'm going to give you action items. I can promise you that I'm going to make myself available. I'm not going to promise you. Like I had a consultation one time with a gentleman in New York, and he goes, "Okay, so I'm going to be able to text you anytime." And I was like, "Oh no, no,
No.
no, like I have a whole life, you know."
Yes. Boundaries. Yes.
Yeah, that's not a thing. And I know what I offer and I know what my priorities are and my values are in business, and I can tell you that's not a thing. And being willing to say that to a client and lose a client for the right reasons to stay in line with my ethics and my values in my life, right? My priorities. So
Yeah.
yeah, you are absolutely incredible. Please, please, please go connect with Eilish on LinkedIn and learn more about what she does and what she has available. Absolutely incredible human. I'm so glad that our paths crossed and that we connected and that I could
Yeah.
add to your Amy jar for other amazing
Yes.
Amy's.
Yes, I'm
So,
so glad that we were able to do
yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who jumped in and had something to offer. I appreciate it. I look forward to keeping in touch with you guys, and we'll be doing more live soon. So, you guys have a good one.